Welcome back. We're reading the Sealed Nectar. It's been an awesome book. We are on page 174 in the section titled Open Preaching, and the subsection that says The First Migration to Abyssinia, Ethiopia. The series of persecution started late in the fourth year of prophethood, slowly at first, but steadily accelerated and worsened day by day and month by month. By the middle of the fifth year, the situation got so grave and no longer tolerable that the Muslims began to seriously think of feasible ways to avert the painful tortures meted out to them. It was at that depressing and desperate period that Allah informed them that His earth was not too restrict for them, alluding to migration. He revealed Surah Az-Zumar, chapter 39, the group, saying in it, Good is for those who do good in this world, and Allah's earth is spacious. Only those who are patient shall receive their reward in full, without reckoning. 39:10. The Prophet, peace be with him, knew that Ashama, who held the title of Negus, king of Abyssinia, Ethiopia, was a fair ruler who would not wrong any of his subordinates. So he permitted some of his followers to seek asylum there in Abyssinia, Ethiopia. In Rajab of the fifth year of prophethood, a group of 12 men and 4 women left for Abyssinia, Ethiopia. Among the emigrants were Uthman bin Affan and his wife Ruqya, the daughter of the Prophet, peace be with her. With respect to these 2 emigrants, the Prophet said, They are the first people to migrate in the cause of Allah, after Ibrahim and Lot. They slipped out of Mecca under the heavy curtain of dark night, and headed for the sea, where 2 boats happened to be sailing for Abyssinia, Ethiopia. Their destination, news of their intended departure, reached the ears of the Quraysh, so some men were sent after them. But the believers had already left port of Shuaibah towards the place of protection, where they were received warmly and accorded due hospitality. In Ramadan of the same year, the Prophet, peace be upon him, went into the holy sanctuary, where there was a large host of Quraysh polytheists, including some notables and elders. Suddenly he began reciting Surah An-Najm, chapter 41, the Star. The awe-inspiring words of Allah descended unexpectedly upon them, and they were immediately stunned by them. Okay, so this is interesting. Okay, so this puts a lot into perspective here. So, some people, like before, before I would have found that really good What Does Islam Mean channel. Oh, dang it. I've been listening to it every day. The Meaning of Islam channel. It has a purple icon. It has beautiful recitation and English, and it's so pretty. So, like, you can listen to, sometimes the guy does so well when he's reciting in Arabic. It does sound like just like a beautiful song that just goes right into your ear, into your brain, right? And then when you hear it in English, you're like, okay, I get it, right? So imagine when it says like these awe-inspiring words, they descended and then Muhammad started just saying it, right? That there is this moment where it's something so beautiful where you cannot not listen, right? It really contrasts with the vanity that we were talking about. Like, for example, this might be a weird example for those who may not be familiar, but there was a rapper named Tekashi 69, ridiculous looking rapper, okay? And he had a song that was just like, Gucci gang, is it Gucci gang? Like, literally the song is just, it's just nothing. It's just babbling. But the beat in the music videos has half-naked girls, and, he gets millions of views, right? Here's the thing. People watch that, and they get entranced, like, ugh, right? And it's literally garbage for you, right? But yet, with the Quran, when you hear it so well done, that is true stunning. That is more of like, this feels good, Because it takes time for you to get used to the Arabic language when you are programmed to not like it and to see it as the call of the enemy, right? You hear a language and your country's at war with them, you get like on alert, like, oh, what is that? Right? But when you start reading the Quran, you start reading the history, and then you start like I started reading the transliteration. I mess up, make a lot of mistakes, but still you become more connected with it because you're struggling and you're learning it. And then when you hear someone do it so well, you're like, wow, that's interesting and it's beautiful. So I can totally believe that the people who spoke Arabic that long ago, right, hearing it raw from Muhammad, right, and you're like, hey, because if people can do that today with some idiot like Nicki Minaj, she has a song that goes, "You was stupid how, you was stupid how," and it's just literally that's the hook, that's the song, right? And people are like, "Yeah, this is the song." They put it in their cars and then they're driving. They got their bass on, they got the treble up, they got their subwoofer. It's like boom, 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 and like the car's like vibrating, and it's like they're getting high and excited off of that song. But what's even more beautiful, because that's not a beautiful song, is when you can connect with like a recitation. And even if you don't understand it all the way, when you hear it and then you hear the English part, you connect with it and you're like, oh. I don't know if. I think people who've grown up in the West might get that. And then they've changed their life and they've gone down that path. They might know what I mean. But it's beautiful. Because I can feel that way with opera. Pavarotti, right? I like opera. But most opera it's love opera. So it's like, of course, it's romance. Of course you're going to feel something. But the Quran is more of like wisdom, right? And for philosophy majors like myself, it's like imagine a philosopher singing something very cool. To me, that's awesome. And you can philosophize so much with the Quran as I've come to learn. So, I mean, I can totally believe that these people were stunned and awe-inspired when they heard it. It was the first time for them to be shocked by the truthful revelation. Indeed, I can believe it. It had formerly been the favorite trick of those people who wished to dishonor revelation. Not only not to listen to it themselves, but also to talk loudly and rudely when it was being read. People kind of do that to street preachers sometimes. They'll bullhorn each other to like shut them up. So that even the true listeners may not be able to hear. They used to think that they were drowning out Allah's speech. They would say, "Listen not to this Quran and make noise in the midst of its recitation, that you may overcome." 41:26. When the unspeakably fascinating words of Allah came into direct contact with their hearts, they were spellbound and got unaware of the materialistic world around them, and were caught in a state of full attentiveness to the divine words to such an extent that when the Prophet, peace be upon him, reached the stormy heart-beating ending, "So fall you down in prostration to Allah and worship Him alone." 53:62. Yeah, I believe it. I really do. If you would have told me this before reading the Quran, and before I had really gotten involved with all of you in the Muslim community, I might not have believed it, right? Because we in the West have different relationship with religion. Most of the time you can see a Christian preaching, you get annoyed, you get irritated, you want to be mean to them sometimes, right? Depends on how they're acting. If they're screaming at you, telling you you're going to burn in hell, then you get aggressive. I've never seen a Muslim like reciting in the streets, but I have seen YouTube videos of beautiful recitations. So it's a bit different, right? But I can totally picture it in my head how people can get moved. The idolaters unconsciously and with full compliance prostrated themselves in their truly helpless state. It was, in fact, the wonderful moment of the truth that cleaved through the shameless souls of the arrogants. Oh, I like how he said that. The truth that cleaved through. Because a cleaver, you use a cleaver. I use a cleaver to sometimes tenderize meat. Bam, bam, bam. And oops, sorry, I hit my own elbow. It tenderizes it, makes it nice and squishy. And nice and like you can eat it. It's good for alligator meat. Because I like alligator meat. You need to tenderize alligator before you eat it. So it's like, if your heart is hard, in the words of Allah, is like tenderizing it, making it softer, not hardened. Very clever, beautiful way to put it. And the shameless souls, like people who have no shame, right? We actually like that here in the West. Not having shame is seen as a, a noble thing. There's even a TV show called Shameless, of the arrogance and the attitude of the scoffers. Like, ugh, I've been scoffed at. Doesn't feel good. They stood stunned when they perceived that Allah's words had conquered their hearts and had done the same thing that they had been trying to eradicate and exterminate. Their co-polytheists who had not been present on the scene accused and blamed them severely. Consequently, they began to fabricate lies, blaming the Prophet, peace be with him, alleging that he had attached to their idols great respect and ascribed to them power of desirable intercession. All of these were desperate attempts made to establish an excusable justification for prostrating themselves with the Prophet, peace be with him, on that day. Of course, this foolish and wicked slanderous behavior was in line with their already common practice of telling lies and plot hatching. This makes even more sense, like when the Quran says, like, don't do these things. You can see why it was mentioned so much. Really, these two, the Sealed Nectar and the Quran, really complement each other. News of this incident was misreported to the Muslim immigrants in Abyssinia, Ethiopia. They were informed that the whole of Quraysh had embraced Islam, so they made their way back home. They arrived in Mecca in Shawwal of the same year, when they were only an hour's travel from Mecca. The reality of the situation was discovered. Some of them returned to Abyssinia, Ethiopia. Others entered secretly into the city, or went in publicly but under the protection of local notable. Wow. This is such a great book. Yeah. Learning a lot, man. What do you think?